Is Joe Biden's cancer diagnosis a long overdue truth or just the latest cover up? On today's episode of America Unfiltered with James Pascalides, we'll talk about Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill, CNN finally admitting that Trump's felony charges were just a joke, and a deep dive into my recent appearance on Jubilee Media's Deportation debate, featuring guests from the episode to discuss the real stories behind the headlines. All that and much more coming up on today's episode of America Unfiltered with James Pascalides, starting now.
The moment is here. This is our moment.
America, we are back, baby. Welcome to another episode of America Unfiltered. We have Lori Mills here with us today. Lori Mills is a podcaster. She is a conservative located in California, and she was also on the pro-mass deportations episode with me on Jubilee. Lori, tell the people about yourself a little bit.
Okay, yeah. And it was so fun to be with you on Jubilee, by the way. I'm a mom and grandma. My son's a Marine. I left the world of real estate about 4 years ago to run for the state assembly here in California because I live in Woketopia. From there, I was on KBC radio for about a year and got sick of driving to Los Angeles. So now I have the podcast Uncover California, and that was my 5th Jubilee episode.
Awesome. Did you have a favorite Jubilee episode you've done before, or no rankings?
Well, this one was really fun. I would put that probably up there. One that was really fun is I did Surrounded, and I had Dean Withers, I think his last name is.
Yeah,
and I debated
I know Dean.
with him. And that went pretty viral. So that was a fun one because I didn't know who the kid was. You know, I'm a grandma. I'm a lot older than all of you. So I pretty much buried him, and that went viral. So that was really fun. But this was probably up there with some of my favorites. My worst one that I didn't like was the 30 Democrats versus 30 Republicans on middle ground before the election, where we were talking about President Trump and Kamala, and there were just too many people.
Yeah, I
Way
could
too
see
many.
30 on 30 being, we were
Oh,
just doing 4 on 4. It was sometimes hard to even like get your little statements in. So I could see in the 30 on 30 setting how it could just be so much more hectic. But I did see you on way before I met you or really knew you. I saw you argue against Dean Withers on Surrounded, and that was an amazing clip. To anyone who hasn't watched that, you should go out of your way to see it. It is so funny, and Dean Withers is one of the, I don't know, he's a cocky little liberal kid. He can't be more than 21, very ill-informed, and he likes to act like he knows what he's talking about. So when you have someone like you who actually does know what she's talking about, it's a conversation like that's only going to go one way. But I
yeah,
did want to
I call them sis and sissies.
sis and
You know, you
sisters,
got
yeah.
Tim and Parker,
And
and
Harry,
they
and oh
try to
yeah.
take on Charlie Kirk all the time, which is laughable.
It's crazy that anyone tries to take on Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is, he's an autodidact, he's self-taught, but he's one of the smartest people. I can't even say my generation because he's a little older than me, but he's one of the smartest people we have in America. He is so informed politically, and I don't know, he's just very reasonable, and he's very good at listening and responding, which is something that's rare in the political scene. A lot of people just have their own opinions, but he actually listens, takes everything in, and responds, which is something I really like to see. But I did want to ask you, how did you were telling me a little bit earlier, but how did you get into podcasting, Jubilee, and all the media stuff?
I walked away from my business, ran for the state assembly, and I was offered a spot to do my podcast. Well, it was a radio show at the time, Uncover California. And so I was on KBC radio for quite some time, for about a year. But I used to have to drive from Ventura County all the way to Culver City, which is about an hour drive. If you hit traffic, it's a 2-hour drive, and you drive through the homeless encampments to get
Oh,
there. And I got sick of it. So there was a studio here in Westlake Village, California. So they asked me to come do the show there. And I was like, let's give it a shot. Well, it was funny because, well, it wasn't funny, but that studio ended up getting robbed, and it was one of the partners. So I ended up going to my church. My church is at Godspeak Calvary Chapel. My pastor is Rob McCoy, who actually is Charlie Kirk's pastor
Oh,
and
wow.
founded, like, yeah, and founded Turning Point USA with him. But I, God wanted me to record at the church. So they have a studio there, and that's where we record.
That's amazing. And what a small world with the Charlie Kirk connection as well. That's so funny because we were
Yeah.
just talking about that a second ago. I always forget that Charlie Kirk is from California. It's something you don't think about because of how conservative he is, but it is one of the fun facts about him that he is from California. And that's probably one of the reasons he is how he is and how conservative he is because he got to see firsthand failing liberal policies. And in Florida, it's just the
Yeah.
complete opposite. It's Florida, we don't have to deal with almost any of the wokeness that is going on in California. That's one of the reasons I love living in Naples, Florida specifically. I mean, here it's about 99% conservative. I think when they looked at the votes, it's as conservative as it gets over here. But I
It
wanted to ask, was
used to
there
be
oh,
conservative here. It just, we have this Democrat supermajority in the state Senate and state assembly. Do not let that happen to your state.
oh no.
And they have made laws that make things insane. Like, we are a sanctuary state to give kids sex changes. That's how woke they are.
That's
It's
absurd.
it's
That
the
should never be
sickest thing.
allowed.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
God's
It's
children
child
are not
abuse.
for sale. It's one of the
Oh, I've had
saddest,
Tim
saddest
Ballard on
things.
the show, funny enough.
Really? Oh my Lord,
Yeah,
that's a dream for me. Oh my Lord, that's
yeah,
amazing. What's he
Jim's
like?
fantastic. He actually came out to California and did an event for me in January after he was on the show. He's a fantastic man. As soon as Sound of Freedom came out, he was hit with a bunch of lawfare and accusations, kind of like Trump was and
Yep.
Pete Hegseth was. It's what they do. They accuse you of things.
Yep.
So he's been fighting that, but he's still rescuing children. He's an
It's
amazing man.
amazing.
His wife, Catherine, is beautiful and just the nicest, sweetest woman. And so I consider them friends now.
Yeah, I mean well, that's amazing that you're friends with them. That's
Yeah.
so cool. The more I learn about you, the more interesting you get. I mean, when I watched the movie
Yeah.
The Sound of Freedom, it was one of the most moving things ever. I think I went to see it 3 different times in theaters. It's a beautiful movie, and the fact that they had to overcome hurdles to even get that movie in theaters is crazy. There shouldn't be hurdles when it comes to exposing lies on the government level, on a world level, or however it is. And the fact that people are trying to stop that from coming out tells you everything you need to know about the movie and how impactful the movie actually is. But
I have a
one,
funny story about
oh,
that.
yeah,
I
keep
have
them
to tell
coming.
you really quick.
Oh, keep them
Okay, so
coming.
when I was running for the state assembly, I got invited to a fundraiser for Carrie Lake in Los Angeles because everybody comes here to campaign. And I get there and I'm expecting, 50 to 100 people, whatever. And I walk in and it's a dining room table and there were 10 of us. Me, Rick Grinnell, Carrie Lake, and a group of people. And so as I was leaving the event, there were some people talking out front, and this guy tells me, he goes, you need to see this movie I made about child trafficking. And I had seen the preview for Sound of Freedom before it was released. And I told him, like, well, I really want to see that movie, Sound of Freedom. And it was Eduardo Verastegui who had produced Sound of
Yeah.
Freedom. So we were instant friends too. He was like, no way, that's my movie. So it was pretty funny how that all came about. But what was really sad about Sound of Freedom was, again, the left that has been consistently lied to was told that it was a propaganda movie. And the bottom line is, we've had children, and this is, not just America, but these migrant kids have been kidnapped, they've been trafficked, and for sex, for organ harvesting, and the left is clueless. And
Yeah,
it's so sad.
the way the left ignores the problem with sex trafficking of children, specifically on that, like, if you were to take out everything with immigration and just talk about sex trafficking of children, it's one of the biggest problems in America. And then when you add everything that happens at the southern border on top of it, it's astronomical how big the issue is. And the fact that it's repeatedly ignored by liberals in our government and just liberals in our media and just constituents of the country It's absurd. One of the biggest lies that we're seeing, and one of the biggest media hoaxes that we're currently going through as well. And I did want to get your take on a current possible media hoax we're going through right now. We all were told yesterday about Joe Biden's cancer announcement. While it is very sad for anyone to go through cancer, and I do hope and pray for the recovery and for his family's health, I do want to know, and I want to get your take. Do you think that this was something that they've known for years and are just now telling us? Because just weeks ago, I remember hearing the exact quote that Biden has a clean bill of health. And to go from a clean bill of health to stage 4 metastasized cancer to the bone is a very big leap. And I personally think it's the media lying, but I wanted to get your take on that. And I'm sure the people would love to hear what you have to say on it.
Well, I think that they've lied to us about Joe Biden for a very long time. My dad had dementia, so I've seen the signs of that. And I was 4 years ago saying the man has dementia. And they have lied about him and lied about him. And then the her tapes finally came out, last week?
Yep.
I think they've known about the cancer. I think they've known about his mental decline and hid it from the country. And the scary thing about that is, who was the president?
I
Who
guess
was acting?
Obama, but I don't know. It's
It could have been
scary.
Susan Rice, but who knows? All these executive orders that he did, who really did them? Did he know that they were done? Are they all invalid? Are the pardons against Adam Schiff invalid? And the J6 committee? Let's hope so, but it's worth digging into. But as far as them having cancer, I think it's been going on for a while. There's no way that he got to stage 4 in 4 months. The thing about him recovering, they want to remember him in a fond way. And the bottom line is, the man is evil and corrupt. I've interviewed Devin Archer, Hunter Biden's business partner. They are a very corrupt family.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this was to divert attention from the her
That's
tapes
exactly what
because,
I think as well. I
yeah,
really
and
think
it's
it's
sad.
diverting attention and that they're trying to. I think it was pretty much a staged release. They pretty much leaked in little stages that, oh, maybe Joe Biden might have dementia. He might not be up for the presidency. We're going to put in Kamala. Then, they would. More CNN analysts would denounce Joe Biden, his critical thinking skills, and all the things that he used to be. Joe Biden was a very quick individual, even though I disagreed with his policies. Very witty, very quick back in the day, and a very excellent public speaker. And as much as I disagreed with his policies, to go from that to an absolute shell of himself in front of our eyes for 4 years and being told, no, this
They
is the
told us he was
fiery Joe
fine,
Biden. Yeah, it
and
was a
he
joke.
was fine. They told us the border was secure.
Oh my
I
Lord.
always say, how long do you have to be lied to? How long do you have to be lied to till you realize that they're not telling you the truth?
And it's crazy because half the country seems extremely awake to it. Like people like us, we live off the idea of common sense. Common sense is what runs this country. What runs policy. Liberals, and you saw it firsthand on our Jubilee debate, there was just a lack of common sense with a lot of the arguments. And it's what's leading to the decline of our country. It's what's leading to the decline of just being able to have a regular conversation. I remember the day where I could debate with my friend about something I completely disagree with, and we could walk away and still be friends. Now it seems almost hard to find friends of the opposite political affiliation because of the division being sowed in our country, and it seems specifically from the lies the Democrats are telling us. And I don't know. They love to paint us as the party of disrespect, but I have right here sitting in front of me just the comments on the video we did. Every criticism
Well, they hate
that,
me, and
oh
I don't
yeah,
care.
it's crazy. Every criticism me or you got, none of them have any facts. They all lack substance. They're all just criticizing the person and not the actual things we are saying. And I think, yeah, like kind of like we were saying earlier, that's how we know we're doing well with these things is when we have people hating on us, when we have people going at us for our opinions with no substantial factual evidence to refute it.
Well, that's the problem, though, is I'm very well sourced. Most of my sources are direct.
Yeah.
There are people that have been in the Darien Gap. There's people that have traveled with the migrants. They're the people that rescue children. They're the people that were chief of border patrol in San Diego. I've got firsthand sources telling me the truth about what's going on where they're getting media talking points. And I have no hate for any of them, but I do find it very interesting, especially with this show, how suddenly they cared about the Constitution.
My Lord, yeah, when Caesar brought up the Second Amendment and how we use the Second Amendment argument when he was talking about the Fifth Amendment, it was one of the most ridiculous things, specifically the way they edited that segment too, because they took out a lot of stuff that was in between that conversation. And I don't know, you could definitely tell, as independent as Jubilee likes to claim to be, they're definitely left leaning. The moderator was as left leaning as it could get. At one point, he even looked at me and he said to me, "You're going to get fact checked on that and you're not going to like it. But if you Google the fact checked, I'm still correct." So it's one of the craziest things.
My light's having issues. It may go off, so I may be darker.
Oh, no, you're
There it
good.
goes. The interesting thing about Ryan, I believe his name is, I was excited to see him because I thought we would be able to debate him.
Yeah.
I saw him on a previous episode, and honestly, my jaw dropped. And it was where they were talking about, I think it was pro LGBTQ.
Yep.
And he literally said on that show that a school teacher introduced him into the LGBT community and taught him about what I he taught, was he groomed?
Yeah,
Was
that
he
is
abused?
grooming. That is the definition
And
of
I
grooming.
was blown away that he thought that was okay as a mom. I'm like, if some teacher did that with my kid, let me tell you, that teacher'd be in big trouble, huge trouble.
Oh yeah.
And it's just normal to him, and it's not normal.
I don't
That's
have
not
kids
normal.
yet, but hopefully I'm blessed enough to have kids one day. And I mean, if I
You
can't
will.
afford to send my kids to private school, I'm homeschooling my kids, because the amount of things that public school teachers get away with, specifically the tenured ones who a lot of them should have been removed decades ago. It's crazy the things they get away with saying to children, doing to children. I feel like every week I'm seeing a new case about a teacher grooming or molesting a child, whether it's a male or female teacher. It's a problem on both ends, and it's something that is a huge problem in the public school system. The Department of Education does not address it, and every time Donald Trump tries to address it with the Department of Education, we see these major media pushbacks that Donald Trump is trying to dismantle education, when in reality, we've only got dumber the more money we've spent since creating the Department of Education. It's really just a big circle, and every time it ends with the media lying to us and Republicans just pleading for anyone to listen to common sense. I feel like it's a never ending game that I don't know if we're going to get out of, but I really hope we do. But I did want to ask you, over the next 3.5 years, I know we all have different things we envision Trump accomplishing over the next 3.5 years, but do you have anything specific that you would really love to see?
Absolutely. These unelected bureaucrats and this monster bureaucracy that we've seen, and we've seen it with Doge, with USAID, where we're giving billions to Guatemala for child sex changes, where we are giving, I believe I saw something about we had paid $53 billion to Eco Health Alliance, which created the the pandemic,
Yep.
COVID. And I want those broken up, number one. I also want the deep state destroyed. And I know people are going to go, ooh, she's talking about the deep state. We have a deep state. The
Oh yeah.
the lawfare that we saw during President Trump running for office was insane. Judge Merchan's daughter made millions off of the trial. These district judges that seem to think that they have more power than the president. And something that we got into on Jubilee was the 9-0 ruling from the Supreme Court, which I thought was a disgrace. And I've got a constitutional right to think that.
Yeah.
So it what the judicial system seems to be more powerful than the presidency.
Yeah, that
And
was a
when we
huge shock to me too. How
yeah,
much power the
and
judicial system has.
Well, and even these district judges, they shop the judges. They'll go to a liberal area like Los Angeles to find a
Yep.
district judge to agree with their Marxism. But the bottom line, even with immigration, Joe Biden put us into what's called the Global Compact of Migration. And it is to erase borders around the world. And if you look at Paris and what has happened in Europe now, their country's gone. They're the
Yeah.
minority in their country, and people that believe in Sharia law are in charge now. That is going nowhere good.
Have you seen
And we
the
can't,
clip of Tim Pool with Adam Conover? He used to do Adam Ruins Everything, that TBS show. But Adam Conover, he's a very liberal comedian, and he was joking about how he can go to the UK and make any jokes he wants about politics, whatever. And
no way.
Tim Pool said to him, he's like, "I'll give you $10,000 cash in your pocket if you make one joke about Muhammad in in the UK." He's like, "Watch yourself either get killed or put in jail within the hour." He's like, "You can't sit here and tell me that you can make all these jokes when you can't. Freedom of speech does not actually exist over there." And it's one of the craziest things that it's not talked about. We almost need a second war with England with what's going on over there. I mean, we need to give them some freedom. They cannot speak over there. They want to talk about the, gun violence in America, but the knife violence in England and UK, it's awful. I don't know, everything happening over there seems to be an absolute disaster right now. And they love to look at America like it's this reality show, but America is the most successful country in the world's existence with a higher GDP growth than anyone could even fathom. So I really laugh at the idea that these people in these other countries and that comedians like Adam Conover think they can get away with these things that they just can't.
And understand how close we came to losing this country. I think that's something that people don't understand at all. I don't know about you, but in 2020, I posted about Hunter Biden's laptop. I was banned. And all these people that were at Jubilee last week, did they speak up about our constitutional rights when
Nope.
I lost my First Amendment for reporting a true story about Hunter's laptop? Banned off Instagram, Facebook, the old Twitter before Elon. All of us were censored. And why? Because they wanted to cheat in the 2020 election.
I think the Twitter files and when all that came out after Elon bought Twitter and I think it was Matt Taibbi who he gave the access to release all the information. I'm not
And
exactly sure
Barry
on that.
White and Schellenberger.
Yeah, but I mean that exposing the government's corruption of censoring posts, specifically the Hunter Biden laptop story, but it's goes against everything that America was founded on, and our founding
They
fathers would revolt against our current government if they were given the chance.
and understand they censored doctors. They censored Dr. Malone and Dr. Markowitz, who
Yep,
were the people that created the mRNA technology. When he said this vaccine's not working, it's actually shedding the virus to other people.
yep.
They ignored everything about remdesivir and how deadly it was. And yet, I think the 2020 election was death by a thousand cuts. But COVID had a blessing in two ways. Number one, we found out what they were teaching the kids in school.
Yep.
And number two, we now have seen this unelected bureaucracy that has so much power. I also think it's a blessing because if President Trump would have taken office in 2020, still would have been surrounded by the enemy.
Yep. I think that Trump's first term, not that it was, it's going to sound bad at first, but it was almost just setting up for this second term in the sense of his first term, he had no clue what he was doing when it came to picking his cabinet. And he picked all the wrong people. He picked people who'd been in the government for years. And a lot of the people ended up turning on him. Mike Pence was one of the worst. A lot of people in his own cabinet. And then Trump in this term, I've never seen a president with more confidence. I almost hate to use the word swagger, but like he exudes more swagger than like any like he walks up there, he doesn't fear anybody, he doesn't fear any question. He invites all the negative questions now because he knows he could just turn it right back on them and show the American people just how lost the media has gotten. I did want to ask you about something that the Trump administration had floated out recently. Kristi Noem in Trump's cabinet talked about a game show style process for fast tracking immigration. I don't know if you heard about this, but it's something that
I
I'm
did,
kind of
but it never,
excited about. I wanted to know what
well,
you thought about the idea.
honestly, I don't know if it's a joke, to tell
I
you the
couldn't tell
truth.
either.
Sometimes they throw things out there to drive the left nut.
I thought the
So,
same thing.
but so we'll see. I'm not going to sit here and wait for it. It could be a joke just because they wanted to narrative shift and watch the left melt down and the media melt down, because that's what they do.
I could see it as two things. I could really see it as a way to make the left melt down, like you're saying. And if they do make it a real thing, I could see it as a way for them to almost bring money to some of the migrant families who win the show. Like, imagine the idea of becoming an American citizen and you get like a brand new Ford Cherokee, or like you get like $100,000, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, the idea of it is
I don't
pretty
know if I
interesting to
want the
me.
government paying for that, though. That's my tax dollars.
The
There's better things.
sponsorships, the sponsorships. We get My Pillow to
Yeah,
sponsor it.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not totally sold on that one.
And then I only have one or two more things I really wanted to ask you, but I wanted to ask, if you could remove any politician in our government at all, who would it be? If you could remove them from their position, do you have anyone in mind that you really don't like?
100%. There's several, but number one in my head is Adam Schiff,
Adam Schiff. Yep, that's definitely a top three
who
for
is
me.
my state senator. It
Oh
is
yeah,
just, the man is a lying, treasonous scumbag.
I couldn't
He,
agree with you more.
he was highly involved in Russiagate. He was highly involved in the sham J6 committee. He has lied to the American people over and over and over again without accountability.
Yep.
That man, if anybody, he needs to go. Can't stand him.
I was gonna say my top three are AOC. I
Oh,
would
her
say
too.
Jasmine Crockett, and definitely Adam Schiff. I do not like Adam Schiff at all, but Jasmine Crockett and AOC, I cannot stand either of them as well. I think AOC only speaks nonsense, and Jasmine Crockett, I don't even know how she got elected. I mean, that's the ultimate DEI hire right there.
But isn't that amazing though, that like for me, Elon Omar, how
Oh,
did
I
she get
forgot about
well,
her.
I
Oh
guess
my God.
Somalia is pretty big in her state, the refugees there.
Yeah. But
But
how does someone who hate
these
America get elected?
to leave. They hate America.
Yep.
And if they don't like it here, they can leave. Not to mention the fact that Omar married her brother to get him in the country.
Oh my God, it's crazy the media doesn't talk about. I reported on that a few months ago, and I tweet about it all the time whenever I am getting into anything with anyone about Omar. But it's one of the to marry your own brother it's despicable and just absolutely
Well,
disgusting.
I don't think it was a sexual relationship. I
No,
just
but
think it
just
was a
the idea of,
fraudulent
yeah, like
entry.
I don't know. I mean, I couldn't even convince my friend to marry me for, tax reasons, but to convince your brother to marry him for citizenship is crazy. So it's just, I don't
And
know,
he's
it's
still
crazy
here.
to me. But
He's still here.
I have,
So I get
ooh,
number three. My number three would be, and I've got to think about this, because I think Chuck Schumer's on his way out. But Elon Omar, I don't like her. Or that
yep,
woman with the bald head,
okay.
Priestley.
Yeah, those are
They're-
three good ones. Those are really good.
yeah.
The last thing I really wanted to ask you before we sign off, was there anything during the Jubilee appearance that wish you said or wish they didn't edit out?
Honestly, I think most of the things that we talked about, the children, because how can you argue with kids that are being sex trafficked? How can you support this migration? And we have them missing in our country, and it doesn't seem to be a concern for the left. It's a non-issue. And yet they say they're the ones that are compassionate. There's no compassion in illegal immigration. And they also didn't care about their due process coming in. As a matter of fact, they were quite silent about it. And we cannot have terrorists in our country. We cannot have child traffickers in our country. We cannot have gang members in our country. And if we did court hearings for 10 to 20 million people, we would be in court for 100 years. They get to go out as fast as they came in with the same process they had coming in.
Oh yeah, no, there shouldn't be like when Matt was saying that he wants each of them to have their each individual court case. The
Could you
process should be
imagine?
arresting the person, verifying they're not a United States citizen and that they're here illegally, and then just send them home. There should be like, why
Yeah.
should pass that? What other process do you need? If you've already determined they're in your country illegally, they've overstayed their visa, they didn't have one, they broke in, whatever it is, there shouldn't be a process beyond that. And I've never understood that. And back to what you were saying about the kids, I
Well,
have personally looked through every single tweet that Kamala Harris, that Adam Schiff, that Cory Booker, I could probably look beyond that, but those three specifically, I've looked at every single tweet they've sent out since January 1st of this year to today. Not one of them is relating to any missing children along the border or any missing child in the United States. So it's weird that
they
why are
were
Democrats
making
ignoring this?
they were making money. Okay, let me break a story here for
Yeah.
you. Okay, so and then I do remind me. I want to talk about how he was saying that we needed to put judges at the border.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
But Jill Biden sat on the board of Save the Children in Guatemala, and the prosecutor in Guatemala was going to sue the state of Texas. Look this up because he said you're kidnapping our kids. Jill jumps off the board of Save the Children, and Joe Biden, just like in Ukraine, says to the president of Guatemala, fire the prosecutor or we're cutting off your funding.
No, it's corruption.
That they're making these NGOs made billions of dollars off of human suffering.
Yep.
And it's really sad to say Catholic family services, Jewish family services, they use these faith-based organizations to traffic money. When you look into the fraud with the USAID that was discovered, there was a lot of money going to these NGOs,
Oh yeah.
and they were making billions on murder, on rape, and human suffering. And that's why, and this is a great pivot to what we were talking about on the show. And I keep forgetting his name, the one that was Mr. Constitution, even though he only used it for his
Caesar.
Caesar.
He wore the
Okay, he
CEO
was,
chain.
yeah, he said that we needed to put more judges on the border. What would that do? Nothing.
Yeah,
The
no.
cartels were running our border. You're still going to have this global compact of migration, selling children, selling people, murdering people because they still got to go through the border to get here. They're going to get the wristbands to say what level they're at, and the
Yep.
cartels are going to make
How much
billions.
money they still owe and stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah. People would come into our country and the cartels would turn around and say, if you don't pay us $15,000, then we're going to kill your family at home. So it entered the migrants directly into a life of servitude.
It's it's crazy the way that they want to turn it all. Like when you're for illegal immigration, you're for slavery, you're for lowering American jobs, taking away American jobs, you're for sex trafficking children, because you can't make the argument that you're for illegal immigration because of the compassion and the empathy and all the liberal nonsense without actually acknowledging the consequences of illegal immigration, which are way,
What it does to the migrants.
oh yeah,
Never
and
mind the people here in America that are murdered like Jocelyn Nunkery or Rachel Morin or Kate Steinle or, Laken Riley. We're having people murdered here because these gangs have come into our country and they say, well, they're trying to escape the violence in their countries. Well, they're bringing the violence with them.
yep. And the fact that I don't know, the fact that zero Democrats in our government also voted for the Lake and Riley Act was one of the most disappointing things. I remember texting all my liberal friends right after the bill, and I said, I want you guys to read this bill or ask ChatGPT or Grok to summarize it for you. Let me know if you would vote yes or no on. Even all my liberal friends said they would have voted for that bill. So the fact that every Democrat in our government voted against it just to make a statement against Trump just shows that they don't care about the American people or their taxpayers or constituents. They only care about lining their pockets, helping out the NGOs, and continuously pushing on this woke mob agenda that is failing our country.
To the point that at the State of the Union, when Jocelyn, a 12-year-old girl, was raped and murdered brutally, President Trump named a park after her while she was in the room, and the Democrats refused to stand for her. They
They,
refused to stand for her. And when you look at what this country went through during the Biden regime's reign, there was nothing good. They're blaming Trump for inflation. Well, they were telling us 3 years ago inflation was transitory. And our prices spiked under Joe Biden. And guess what? We're not going to get the prices down in 3 months. It's going to take a little bit longer.
oh yeah, and I remember even at the start of President Trump's term, they were like, Trump, you said egg prices would be down immediately day one. And then now egg prices at an all-time low, which obviously it is an important
What I
stat,
know about the original, they've dropped a
or
little
not
bit. They've
all-time low,
dropped,
all-time low for the year, I meant. I'm sorry about that.
yeah,
But
because they're
it's just
$3 and
crazy.
50
It's
under
crazy the
Trump's first
media
term.
spin on it all. I just the woke mob media needs to stop lying to the American people. Ever since Obama appealed the Smith-Mundt Act when he was president, it allowed propaganda to be told to the American people, and it's very clear that the media has taken full advantage of that. And it's only become more clear in like a post-pandemic world where we're really able to, I don't know, I feel like past the pandemic, a lot more people who weren't woken up are now woken up to the fact that our government isn't always telling us the truth. And you can't just take everything they say as black and white. You need to do your own research. Don't just take every vaccine they give you. Don't just accept everything they say as it is. Use your, thought as a human to be able to make your own decisions.
Well, they make it very difficult sometimes to do your due diligence in the sense that if you try to Google something,
Oh,
you get
yeah.
left-wing article after left-wing article after left-wing article.
Google's
What happened
nonsense.
what happened with me, and I think that a lie can't stand in the light of truth. The minute you wake up to the fact that they're lying to you, you will never unsee it.
Oh, yeah.
For me, that happened early on. I worked on the Ron Paul campaign in 2011, and he had, but in the primary, he was 200 votes behind Mitt Romney, who I can't stand,
Hmm.
in the Iowa caucus. And that night, NBC Nightly News said, here are your candidates. And it was everybody but Ron Paul.
Hmm.
The New Hampshire primary happened. Here are your candidates, everybody but Ron Paul. And it was at that moment I said, they're steering this election.
Oh,
And
yeah.
ever since that day, I haven't bought any of the lies. And I actually do the research, and I try to find direct sources of somebody that's actually involved in what's going on to get my information.
That's always the best way. And X makes that extremely possible nowadays, especially with the new algorithm that Elon has going with it. It seems a lot easier nowadays to almost get in contact or get information from these direct sources than these big media outlets. I remember 5, 10 years ago on Twitter or X, you would go on there and the algorithm is pushing CNN, Fox News, it's pushing every single media outlet, not as many journalists. And now I feel it's a lot more independent journalists getting pushed by the algorithm and less media sources, which I love as someone who's trying to do that myself too.
Well, the media's lost. People have lost faith in the media. If you look at their ratings, I mean, they're being decimated, and yet
Yep.
they continue to lie. Even after this whole, I think that's why this whole Joe Biden cancer story dropped. Look at how many of them just had mud on their face, and they
Yep.
had to change the narrative. It's what they do. Need a narrative shift, better do this.
They
And they
also
had,
asked us to stop. They asked the Donald Trump administration to seize all investigations regarding Joe Biden's auto pen and anything that had to do with any Joe Biden was doing in his presidency that Trump or the DOJ was looking into. And I think that has to do with why they announced the cancer thing. They said that right after the cancer thing. They're pretty much just like let him die in peace, which a very small part of me understands. But then the transparent part of me, the way the 99% of me, it wants to know, what was going on. The American people deserve the truth. And just because this guy is going through a cancer diagnosis doesn't mean he can get away with harming the American people and lying to the taxpayer.
and if he did not sign these executive orders that basically really hurt our country,
Yep.
and if he was not signing bills into law and someone else was, and if he was not personally pardoning people, well, guess what? That's all null and void.
Yep.
Think about that. Think about that. We need to know. I
We
need to know
should.
who's been running the country. And the fact that Democrats, okay, and we can take it back to Kamala being installed, don't care that their party is completely tyrannical
Yep.
and they call Donald Trump tyrannical.
They haven't had a
It's just
primary since '08.
no.
Yeah.
And even then, if you think about when Bernie Sanders ran in 2016, they blocked him.
Yep.
They have chosen their candidate every single time, a small group of people, not the voters, and they have just lied. They have
Oh
lied.
yeah.
They have
No, the
if
Democrats
we
are the least democratic people in the country by far.
yeah, but their voters don't see it.
Oh
It's
yeah.
mind blowing.
I'm
They don't
hoping
see
over
it.
time more people continue to wake up to just the woke media and everything that's going on in the country. I know I do have a lot of friends who were liberals, were independents, who are now leaning towards the right side. The younger generation is definitely trending that way. I think Charlie Kirk is the biggest to thank for that. I think he moved the young vote. I think it was like 12 points in 5 years or something, beating his goal of 10 points in 10 years. So huge hats off to Charlie Kirk. But this has been really fun. I really enjoyed doing this. I really want to keep doing this with you again, and I'd love to be on your show at any point. But plug your podcast
Absolutely.
real quick. I'm going to put it in the description and just big words on the screen so people check you out too. But tell people about your show real quick before we sign off.
Okay, so I'm most active on X at Lori Lori Mills Mills, the number 4CA42. You can also see the podcast at Uncover Cali on Rumble and Uncover California on YouTube. Now, with the YouTube, they've taken my videos down several times and I've had to make new accounts. They're still censoring over there. We still throw the videos back up so you can see them there. And then I have a newer TikTok channel just for clips.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll put all those links in the description. All you guys go check out Lori's podcast. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, comment if you have any questions or anything you want us to talk about. I'm going to try and get the whole cast from the Jubilee episode on this week to talk to you guys, give you a little behind the scenes action. Let's move on to some of our next topics. Joe Biden's cancer diagnosis has just been announced. It's announced that he has aggressive prostate cancer, Gleason score 9, that has metastasized to the bone. Doctors say it's inconceivable that this wasn't detected earlier. PSA tests are routine. We had doctors saying that Biden had a clean bill of health time and time again. This was a cover-up by doctors in the American government, by the media, and by the Biden family lying to the American people. My heart does go out to Joe Biden and his family. I hope he is able to beat this. I hope that Joe Biden is able to recover and is able to live his life healthily. But at the same time, we cannot ignore the fact that time and time again, we are unraveling more about the Biden administration. More corruption, more lies. Why were they lying about this to the American people? 3 years ago, Joe Biden in a speech said that he had cancer. The media said that this was just a minor slip up. Obviously, it was something more than that. I'm sure they knew about this years ago. Joe Biden, with his dementia, let it slip out, and the media, pretending he didn't have dementia and pretending he didn't have cancer, still allowed him to be the president, still did not tell the American people the truth of what was going on. Now we even have Jake Tapper writing a book about the cover-up of Joe Biden. He seemingly ratted every single person out except for himself. He's the only one who's innocent in this whole thing. Apparently Pelosi and Booker and Biden and Obama and all those people are guilty, but Jake Tapper's not guilty in any way. He just wrote the book about it. He wasn't involved in it at all, apparently. The amount of corruption that happened during the Biden administration needs to be stopped, and there needs to be transparency to the American people. That's one of the things that Republicans and Americans love about Donald Trump is the transparency. Donald Trump has promised transparency for the American people, and they're continuously delivering on that. They are releasing the Epstein files, the JFK files, the RFK files, the MLK files. They will hopefully be able to release more 9/11 files, the coronavirus files, the AutoPen files, and all these corrupt acts that have happened over the last decade in this country. This is something that is imperative for the future of this country, that we do have absolute transparency between the people and the American government. This isn't something that should be controversial. This is something I say all the time. And I want to dive into our next topic. The one big beautiful bill. Trump's legislative push has just passed a key House vote. This is a really big step for conservatives and for America. Trump ran on no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. He ran on families being able to save more money from their paychecks, not wasting their money on taxes, especially considering the way our government has spent our tax dollars over the last few years. It is atrocious. Waste, fraud, and abuse best describe how our government spends our tax dollars. They spend our tax dollars like a crack addict given an unlimited Amex. It is one of the most ridiculous things. The people in power needed to be limited and they weren't. Now we have Donald Trump doing what he can to have one of the biggest financial bills ever pushed through the United States passed. This would be huge for the American people. The average American family would save about $15,000 a year in taxes. That's money that could buy food. That's money that could be used on childcare. That's money that could be used on vacations or savings or investing. All different kinds of things you could do with the savings that Donald Trump is about to put in your pocket and my pocket. I'm very grateful as an American to have Donald Trump leading this bill. I want to go on to our next topic. CNN admits Trump's felonies were politically motivated. CNN panelist and Democrat strategist Liz Smith admitted on air that Trump's criminal trials were used to derail his campaign. This revelation has sparked major backlash, especially in the conservative and liberal communities. It's raised questions about media bias, political weaponization with the justice system. It's exactly what Republicans have been talking about forever. They've been saying that Joe Biden weaponized the Department of Justice against his political opponents. As Joe Biden is doing that, they're saying Trump is doing it. They know it's a negative thing. They just couldn't report that Biden was doing it. But now that it's all said and done and Biden has his cancer diagnosis and we're not allowed to criticize Joe Biden anymore, apparently, they'll come out and they'll say it because they can't do anything about it. They know all the felonies that they tried to charge Trump with were BS. Nobody in the state of New York has ever been charged with those crimes. The fact that they even attempted to charge Trump with them is a joke. The fact that Letitia James got a statue in New York after all the stuff she put Trump through is completely insane. The fraud and abuse by liberals is astronomical. The lack of common sense by liberals is through the roof. And the fact that they lied to the American people. If you're a Democrat and you watch CNN and you hear this, you should be pissed off that your main news source has been lying to you just to try and not put Trump in office. Republicans, Donald Trump doesn't get up there and lie just to try and win. No, he tells the truth. Kamala got up there and lied consistently, time and time again. She tried to copy Trump's policies. That's how much she wanted to be Donald Trump. We are living in one of the craziest times politically in our world. I'm very excited to be alive during this time and reporting during it. And it's just crazy to see the propaganda and the lies and the hypocrisy by the liberals. I'm James Pascalides. This has been episode 56 of America Unfiltered. Please subscribe, comment, put the notifications on. I'm here every day. I hope you have a blessed day, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you.